Owen Paterson, the MP for North Shropshire, who's a member of the group Leave Means Leave. Mr Paterson, good of you to join us. Thank you very much. Could you enlighten us on what these chats with the Chief Whip entailed and what message you conveyed?
Well, hi, good evening. This was a meeting this morning following quite an animated meeting last night. And we had a long and very sensible discussion with the Chief Whip. Many of us congratulated him, first of all, on the work that he had done getting what is now the European Withdrawal Act through, which is a massive step and a major advance. And what we want to discuss is whether any of the rumours swirling around about what might be the end state are true and what we thought about it. I mean, my views, I've put in a Daily Telegraph article this morning, are very clear. Parliament gave the decision to the British people to decide whether to stay in the European Union. There was a huge vote, the largest vote in history, and the large majority to leave. And that was further endorsed at the general election, where 85% of the votes went to the two main parties, Conservative and Labour, who very clearly said that honouring the referendum result meant leaving the customs union, leaving the single market, and leaving the remit of the European Court of Justice. And of course, some of these ideas that are floating around, some sort of botched customs arrangement where there's some exemption for goods and not for others, none of those will really deliver that. And economically, they won't be good either. And it seems to me they're being driven partly by the producers, who are very, very interested in the 8%, or what, no, it's not, it's about 12% of our GDP, which goes to the European Union, whereas we are interested in the 100% of citizens who would benefit if we had a no-tariff regime. We've always said we want, like, reciprocal free trade with zero tariffs, so we could bring in materials from all over the world, which it's been estimated by some economists would be a benefit of £2,300 a year to every single family. So we talked around this at some length. He reassured us that it is absolutely the government's intention to stick and honour the manifesto commitment to leave the single market, customs union and the remit of the ECJ. And that was confirmed again today when I raised it with the Prime Minister in Prime Minister's questions. I pointed out that President Macron is subjecting every one of his cabinet ministers to a performance review, and I suggested that when each of them speaks up and makes a contribution round the cabinet table on Friday, she judges that contribution and ultimately judges the whole deal which they finally agree on against those three very simple criteria. Will we be really leaving the customs union? Absolutely leaving the single market, so we can take the advantage of cheaper materials around the world, take the advantage of trade deals with the growing parts of the world, which sadly, according to the European Union's own analysis, is not Europe. The European Union says 95% of world growth in the next 20 years is going to be outside the European Union.
The big interest here, one of the big interests, Mr Paterson, is the way that you reacted to these reports of, well, you call it a botched deal or compromise, according to some of your colleagues. You're clearly taking that potential very seriously. You're clearly taking the reports very seriously. Is it your view that that is what the Prime Minister is about at the moment?
Well, I think neither you nor I know. We have not seen what the papers are that are going to be submitted to the Cabinet. But the other point, just forget the economics completely, is the political point that the British people were given an absolutely deciding vote. And what they've gone and done for the first time in history, and this is a constitutional phenomenon, is every referendum up to now, they've gone along with what the establishment wanted. So if you look at the original 1972 referendum, the Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish and the AV referendum, the people helpfully endorsed what the establishment wanted. This time, to the horror of the establishment, they've gone against it. And we have a phenomenon. Now, it was actually endorsed again by the referendum result, where 85% of the votes went to Conservative and Labour, who said to honour the referendum result, we have to leave single market, customs union and the ECJ. If that's not done, my statement today is that it will do catastrophic damage to the integrity of the whole political process. Who will ever believe politicians again? Who will ever decide it's worth voting? And all sorts of unpleasant things might well come out of the woodwork. So it is absolutely incumbent on every one of those cabinet ministers on Friday to think long and hard what they agree. They absolutely have to honour that manifesto commitment, because what we saw in the local elections is that the Leave vote out there, the sympathy, is as strong as ever.
I'm going to put it to you again, Owen, because I'm just going to underline the point. You know, you are being very forceful on this. for the simple reason, I think, that you fear that this is exactly what the Prime Minister wants to do.
No, I don't. No, it's not quite fair. I know we very much respect what the Prime Minister and the Chief Whip have done, getting the Withdrawal Act through. Don't forget that is a huge historic step. But you're quite right. We are, and it was very clear at the meeting last night. We are concerned. Some are positively alarmed at some of the reports that have come out. Some of the stuff on blogs and websites, etc., been reported. So you're quite right. That has disturb people, and if it was very good of the Chief Whip to come round this morning, and I suppose probably about 50 people turned up at pretty short notice, which was quite a significant event in its own right. So you're quite right, we are concerned. We wouldn't have bothered him if we hadn't been concerned. But he has delivered, as has the Prime Minister, has delivered with the Withdrawal Act, and he reassured us this morning, and she reassured me and the whole House in questions that we will be delivering a proper withdrawal from the Customs Union, Single Market and the ECJ.
We're all waiting with bated breath to see what happens. Owen Paterson, thank you very much for joining us once again.